Here's how the helper in the relationship, the dynamic, the group, the community, the association, whatever, the helper gets burnt out. Most of you that are probably watching this or tuning into it or reading this, if it's the blog, it's about a relationship, partnership, husband-wife dynamic, probably most likely, but not always. Like the other relationships matter too, right? The mother to adult child to friendships. So the helper can get burned out really easily. So how over responsibility or over performance is oftentimes language that I use, quietly destroys connection unknowingly, innocently. So this is not about blame. Please don't take it that way. It's never that way, from what I'm pointing towards. But most people think that burnout occurs from doing too much in the relationship, like physically. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is. But more often it comes to the feeling responsible for the load, feeling responsible for everything, remembering everything, the lunches, the planning, preparing, the emotional load, mental load, the physical load, all of the loads, right? It comes from the things that were never meant for you to carry. Sometimes I do think that all relationships are co-created. So, and that's kind of what I'm going to speak to in this is the co-creation of the taking on the responsibility of carrying all the things. So for those of you that are obviously still with me, you've probably will relate to this or be able to raise your hand if you've ever felt exhausted. And at the same time, feeling as though you're doing everything right, everything that you should do, everything you ought to do, everything that you feel is your responsibility. So there's just this conflict in your mind. Well, I feel exhausted, but I have to, or I should, or I ought to, or I must, or this is how I've always done it. So have you ever noticed that when you're the one that everyone, or maybe that specific person in this relationship depends on, you're the one that feels the least supported? It's almost like this sense of, I've actually had a client tell me this in a call. She was in her 60s and she's like, I thought after carrying everything for so long that they were going to return the favor or someone was going to come and do it for me. And it was heartbreaking to hear that. Right? Because she's in her 60s and like no one ever came. And I did all of that for decades. And I feel as though I'm overlooked. I feel insignificant. I feel small. I feel diminished. I mean, it was quite a big revelation, honestly, for her. And she did change her life completely and really rebalanced out some relationships and lost some. Some fell off and just naturally. So when you're the reliable one, oftentimes there's some different variations, but you can become the planner, right? Again, like I talked about, is the one that prepares all the lunches, all the meals, all the events, all the planner that does all the things, right? The hidden stuff that a lot of people don't know or witness or see because they don't have that skill or that talent, or maybe have never planned out an event or kept everyone happy, if you're in a large family. But they are, sometimes there's a planner, sometimes there's a peacemaker, the one that kind of goes between everyone and builds a bridge or, calms the emotions. Maybe you're the peacemaker of the association, the group, the family, or maybe it's just two individuals. Maybe you're in the middle. Maybe you're the middle child. I don't know. But the peacemaker Then there's the reliable one, right? That, you could be the reliable one that whenever something goes awry, you're the one that everybody calls. You're the 911. You're the fixer, you're the doer, you're the one that comes in and swoops in and saves the day, the reliable one. The person that everyone counts on could be you too. That you're the one that gets the 2 a.m. morning phone calls that just people vent and dump their lives on. A lot of times, all of these individuals, you could be all of them too, could a lot of these individuals on the outside look bulletproof. They look strong. They look capable. They have it all together. But oftentimes on the inside, they're exhausted. And honestly, in very honest, genuine conversations with me, they are just tired, exhausted, burnout. They feel used. They feel taken advantage of. They feel like a doormat. They go on. They use quite strong language, to be completely honest with you. They do have a superpower and a skill that they've developed over many years, maybe decades, that they know how to anticipate problems, right? Maybe they have had a life that has taught them that skill. Maybe not something that they wanted to build, but as a result of a coping strategy or a way to protect themselves, they anticipate problems. So they have that superpower. But all superpowers and strengths and skills, when overused and abused, actually creates pain, difficulty, frustration, anger, resentment. So sometimes these people that appear to be very strong on the outside remember a lot of things. They have a great memory. They are very solution focused. They can see a group of people or a situation or circumstance, and they kind of like they play chess. They're like several moves ahead, where most individuals are playing checkers. They're just playing that one move. But these people that and maybe as you're watching this, you're thinking of people in your family or thinking of people that you've worked with in corporate world or whatever, that they remember everything. They anticipate problems like 5-6 moves ahead. Usually they look very, like, believe me, I have a lot of clients over the many years that they actually work really hard to have that front and that persona that they have it all together, but behind closed doors, you'd be surprised at what they share genuinely with me. They are usually really good at negotiating or managing a lot of different emotions and personalities. They usually have a lot of skills and talents and an ability to communicate and calm people down and kind of get camaraderie. Sometimes they feel responsible for everyone's well-being or happiness. Sometimes they look strong and fierce and capable on the outside, but honestly unraveling or overwhelmed on the inside. So the more responsibility you take of everyone else's, the more you absorb, the more you carry, the more you take on, the more you say yes, oftentimes these individuals feel less connected with themselves. So they feel further away from their core, their wisdom, their intuition, their gut, their values, their convictions, their faith, if that's something they believe in. A lot of times they put those things to the side. They get put on the back burner to take on everyone else's responsibilities and emotions and feelings and all the things, right? Mental, emotional, and physical energy. So they usually feel, especially if it's been for decades, they really don't even know what their favorite ice cream is. They don't know what their favorite movie is. They don't know what their favorite color is because all of their energy for so many years has been outsourced in everybody else, right? I'll be happy when everyone else is happy. Well, there's no finish line to that. So they abandon themselves. They detach from all their interests, likes, things that they enjoy. So I do want to say at this point, being helpful isn't the problem. It's not the problem. Being helpful or taking on everybody's responsibility and enmeshing in everyone's emotions is the problem. It's not having clear understanding of where your emotions come from and what your responsibilities are. It's not having safeguards and protection mechanisms or limitations in your world to facilitate and create a balance in relationships. That's what I usually see in a lot of these individuals that come to me in complete imbalance, is they feel overwhelmed by the carrying so much, having so much responsibility, and feeling as though I have to do it, no one else will do it. Right. And that's kind of what I was leading into in this next section is, if I don't do it, who will? Right. I'm the glue is another one I've heard quite a bit. I'm the glue in the family, or I'm the glue in the association or church or organization. I'm the glue. So if I don't do it, who will? I want to prevent conflict down the road. I want to repair this conflict. I want to pull these people together. This is important to me. I don't want people around me to be sad or disappointed. So if I don't do it, nobody else will do it. So I have to do it. In order to be seen as a good person, that's what I do. I help. Right. So, and good people help. And I want to be a good person. So there's this polarity of what's good and bad, right or wrong, better or worse. There's this division, this polarity constantly going on in their mind. Which is a lot of the devil, the angel, black and white thinking. And unfortunately, that creates a lot of problems mentally, emotionally. And there's also this other really deep layered, there's many layers usually that occur. And one of the deepest ones that is not really loud and very evident and very easy to spot or hear, and oftentimes people won't say it, but there's this presence or this philosophy that strong people don't need help. Asking for help is weak, is another way to word that. So, and then when people do this over at least a decade or so much, so frequent, and again, a lot of times it starts as a child in the family dynamic, not always, but sometimes it does, and it moves into adulthood. But there is this thought process, this pattern in this type of individual where helping no longer feels generous. It feels like a have to. It feels mandatory. And you kind of notice that in that language. To be a good person, I have to help. Strong people don't ask for help. Asking for help is weak. So it's just this kind of like this inner brutality that happens, that it's the story that runs this behavior. And it may not be in their words. It's in, like I said, a lot of times when I get coaching with a client, when we build a lot of rapport and trust, sometimes that's right out the gate. Sometimes that takes several sessions, but that will start to bubble up. It starts becoming, it actually comes out in their words or something very similar or synonymous. So we begin, when we have done it for so long, it becomes a pattern, it becomes an identity, it becomes a worldview for that person. They're honestly saying yes to everything and almost signing up for everything. I know that I was in Rotary many years ago, and it was a very small Rotary. It kind of ebbed and flowed in size. I want to say at the smallest, it was probably about 15 people, and at the largest, it might have been 45 people. This is a wild guess. This has been many years, but I remember at one point, and when it got kind of small, when it kind of retreated back, because it was a small community, I remember at one point going, what is it with my hand? Every time anything comes up, I felt my hand rising. But I remember thinking, well, nobody else's hand is rising. So I don't want this to fall off. I don't want this to stop. It was usually fundraising or chairing an event or doing different things. And I just didn't want those things to die on the vine. So I guess I'll volunteer. No one else is volunteering, so I'll volunteer. And I remember going, what is up with my arm? It's like, I felt like a string was pulling it up. So it was constantly saying yes to everything. And so, yeah, I mean, I honestly, what ended up happening is I resigned, because the yeses, at the time, this was years and years ago. This is like almost 20 years ago, not quite 20 years, probably 18 years ago. And I finally resigned because I couldn't figure out where that string was raising my hand. And I know now what, and I'm going to talk about that in this video. Now I know what that string was. It's all me. It had nothing to do with a string or anybody else in the room, and it kind of almost alluded to it in what I said, but it was really this inner story, this inner belief that, well, I don't want it to die. I don't want it. This is raising money for a good cause, so I have to do it because nobody else will do it. Or nobody else wants to do it, so I'll do it. I'll take on that responsibility. I'll take on that role. But unfortunately, I was doing too much. And I did. I built up resentment and eventually wasn't contributing at all, which is a shame. And now looking back on that, there's probably so many things that could have just died on the vine, right? Even though it had gone on historically for many years, maybe it was time for something new, right? And I prevented that. I kind of got in the way of that because I'll volunteer for it. And then, of course, when I raise my hand, other people raise their hand, like, oh, I'll co-chair that with you, or I'll help with this piece or this part or whatever. So then it stays alive. And it's not about blame. It's just about, maybe there are times that things need to just, evolve into something else. But most of our responsibility doesn't begin with anything dramatic or big, just like what I'm saying about Rotary. A lot of times it's just a lot of saying yes, or not seeing that maybe it's time for change. Usually it's a death by 1,000 cuts. Usually it's many small, tiny decisions that generate a behavior. So, and who knows, maybe the presence in that small Rotary group is like, well, Katherine will volunteer. Katherine leads all things, right? So not all things, but a lot of the major things. And so, it becomes this pattern, and people don't raise their hand because they know that somebody else is going to raise their hand. But it does co-create a relationship in that group. So it can create death by 1,000 cuts, and saying yes to all things. A lot of times it's running in the background. And I remember this too, in that specific situation, and in relationships too. I've had relationships in the past where I don't want to say that I personally overperformed a lot. I think I have a lot of restraint in that category, and I've navigated that fairly well over my lifetime. But I will say that I do see this with a lot of clients that do overperform in a way where they say yes, even though they don't have the energy for it. They say yes, even though this is the week that they're going to start working out, or they say yes, and this is and their capacity is at their max, but they still say yes. And sometimes one of the things that prevents them from saying no is, the fear of disappointing another person, or the fear of embarrassment, or the fear of being thought of as less than, or maybe perhaps even smaller could be, I can handle it this one time, or I can do it, it's fine. I'll start working out next month. So there's this, you almost get convinced in your mind, the little devil, the little angel, the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, the dark, the evil, whatever you want to call it, and the light, can convince you to say yes, even though it's out of alignment for you. So you get swayed, you get convinced, but it's not by the other person necessarily. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they verbally will convince you, but oftentimes I think it's more internal, that we want to, again, manage other people's emotions, or manage what they think about us. We don't want their outlook of us or their view of us to change, so we say yes. So yes is not really the problem fully, wholeheartedly. It's your identity, you're wanting to manage and protect your identity and how they look at you, their perception of you, their view of you. But that's none of your business what they think about you. In fact, you can't control that at all. Other than staying in integrity, meaning integrity is saying what you say, you follow through and do. And that includes going to the gym. But when you are in deep integrity, you're showing them how you respond in a relationship. I think people respect someone more that says yes when they really mean it and when they have the capacity to do it. And no, and when and there's an and in here, and when they say no, I'm not able to show up to that fundraiser, but you know what, because this is important to you, I will donate money or something that could be auctioned off, or I can, in some way contribute, but it won't be, by my physical presence and energy. So it's really learning. I think people have a lot more respect for that when you say yes and no at different times, and show them that you respect yourself by saying yes sometimes and no other times. Hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, please comment. Now, hyper independence, I think, is definitely a category that I talk about in the blog. That's what this YouTube is referencing, hyper independence. And the reason why I put that in there is I see that in some of my clients. I think this is more of a me thing. Some of the work I do is my own inner work. Some of the work that you'll see on the blogs and the videos and the different things that I do in my books is, in fact, a future book, not the one I'm working on now, but a future book I'm a little kind of excited about, in a way that it's going to be a dip into something that is very much my own work, and I think could be cathartic and could be very healing. So that's the future me, months out, but kind of excited about it. But anyways, hyper independence is brought into this blog because of my own inner work. I can fall in that category very, very easily. More so over my lifetime. I think it's gotten, as a result of many, many death by 1,000 cuts. Hyper independence is, I think independence is a strength, right? But when overused can be, or abused, it can turn into hyper independence. Like all strengths, all skills, all talents, when overused and abused, they dip into mental, emotional, and physical erosion or harm, or imbalance is another way to word this. Trying to use a variety of language. So, because sometimes I use, depending on my client and their level of understanding of themselves and patterns, I'll use different language. I'm trying to kind of mix it up on the video. So, but with client work one-on-one, I will meet them where they are in their language, use a lot of their own words. Hyper independence, again, overusing and over abusing independence. So I would say I'm a very independent person. So hyper independence, I would definitely say, can create a negative result for sure. It is designed out of a protection strategy or a coping mechanism, if you will. It's a self-preservation. It's a self-protection. It's oftentimes from fear, right? Fear to need people, fear of being let down, fear or being afraid of disappointment, fear of failure. A lot of times hyper independent or independent individuals have grown and developed that out of, again, a protection, but they also, on the other side, which fuels it, maybe on the positive side, is this worth in being useful or needed or important or valued. I hear that in some client work, and they'll say something of the nature, and actually I know somebody that is close to me that I think can tip into the independence and hyper independence, and they use a lot of language of what do you want me to do for you? What can I do? Can I do something? Can I do? Like, it's like almost in this repetitive way. I need to do something. What can I do? Can I do something? You help me, come up with a plan to do this or do something for you. There's a lot of doing in the language, and it's almost in a pushy sort of way. But you could feel a need to be included, a need to be useful, a need to be valued, a need to help. But the only way I know how to help is I have to do something. I want to do something because of your discomfort bothers me, almost like this energy of, I'll fix this for you. That might be another way to word this too. They jump in and they're a fixer. They jump in and they want to overdo things, prevent you from getting hurt more, insulate you, guard you, helicopter you, help you avoid another injury or sadness or shame or whatever. Like, they jump in and they kind of just want to jump ahead of you in the road and make sure that you don't go into any potholes. It's I do see that quite a bit, honestly, in adult parents, adult or parenting adult children. Could not say the words. I see that happening a lot, honestly, in coaching, wanting to be in their life and almost develop their life's path, again, out of their business, out of their lane. Don't do this if you have adult children. Please give your adult children agency and power to choose their life path. Let them make choices and decisions and make mistakes and fall and scrape their knees and come to you and tell you that, oh, I made a mistake. Great. That's, life. And, how are you going to get yourself out of this? And what are you going to do to prevent yourself from falling into that trap again? That's supportiveness. Where if you're jumping ahead and fixing everything, making calls and repairing whatever damage is done, that's overperforming. Solving things for people too, adult children or other situations, going in and solving things, rescuing people, that's the word I'm looking for. Rescuing people can oftentimes, can fall in the hyper independence trap too. Also, hyper independence could be never asking for help, never making that call and saying, I really could use your help today. I have this situation and I, really could use another set of hands or another brain, or I want to bounce something off of you. And in fear of looking insufficient or less than or not good enough, I think is probably the biggest one that runs underneath that deeply. So hyper independence, again, some of the work that I do on my own self is pulling in people to help me, to get their thoughts, their feedback, their criticism, their constructive, hopefully. But also, I love it when people call me out on my blind spots. You know that you have this pattern. I've seen you do this more than once. Do you mean to do this? Because we all can't see our own nose, right? So we can't see our own blind spots. And if you're unaware of your blind spots, you're going to keep going through life, repeating the same patterns and loops and creating the same messes. So I appreciate feedback. You have to be willing to get feedback. You have to be willing to hear it and let it wash over you and go, okay, what's the 2% truth in this? There might be more than 2%, but I think if you look at things from a 2%, you can get great information. And oftentimes grow from that, learn from that, see something from a different vantage point. But when you don't need anyone and you go through life, you can, there's nothing wrong with living a very independent, isolated life as long as you thrive in that. I think the show Alone, I reference the show Alone a lot in coaching and in some of my work. I love that show so much. I cannot wait for another episode to come out. There are people that thrive. So Alone, if you haven't seen it, it's on National Geographic. It's sometimes on Netflix. It is about taking 10 individuals, usually, I think it's always 10 individuals, and dropping them off in the wilderness, separated by about 5 miles, and they survive on their own. The last person standing wins $500,000 or $1 million, depending on the episode. And it is interesting to watch. They have to record their whole experience, their whole journey. And you will see, I can spot it off really early on, those that are going to last till the end. And you can really spot it because they are capable to stand independently on their own. And to me, these are individuals that have experience being on their own and isolated in one fashion, form, or another. As soon as someone starts talking about, oh, I miss my family and I miss my friends and I miss my community and I miss, and they're out. 24 hours, 48 hours max, poof, they're out. In fact, I think the people that I would be interested to know, the people that have won, if they took a family photo, you're allowed to take one photo and you can get it laminated to where it, doesn't ruin out on your journey. But usually my understanding is some of the episodes that I was keen and heard it, the people that usually last very long don't take a photo. They use their memory to remind them of their loved ones versus taking a photo, because they don't want to they want to keep their mental agility or strength really strong. And there is a thought process that when we pull out that family photo, we get in our own way. But hyper independent people, I kind of got off track there. I could talk forever about alone. I love it. I think it's a great psychological experiment. I would love to probably be on the show, meaning, the one that watches all that, probably hundreds and hundreds of hours of tape, and then they got to pick and choose what actually gets aired. I think I would love that. I would just love that. But anyways, but I think again, when, if you're the type of person that can be independent and live alone and be isolated and live in a cabin in the woods, great. That's amazing. That is a superpower and maybe a strength. I don't call that hyper independence. What I'm meaning about hyper independence is when it erodes away your mental and emotional health, where you're miserable in your hyper independence. You're miserable being alone and wishing that you had the ability to have connection with others. But when you are hyper independent and take that superpower to an extreme, you can feel, it's almost like a feeling of loneliness, right? You are obviously alone. Alone is just a fact. You are alone, but a feeling of loneliness, that I feel like is when the superpower is tipped over into the extreme too much. Because I do think that isolation is a form of torture. Look at it in any psychological shows or thrillers or law enforcement. They isolate you for a purpose, for a reason, to get in your own head, to get in your own way, to have you trip yourself up. So it doesn't feel safe. You're kind of your own worst enemy. There's so many quotes that I could use that pertain to this. But anyways, let me move on, because I would like to try to keep this under an hour if I can, for your benefit and mine. The invisible emotional contract. So this, I think, probably is one of my favorite parts of this blog and the content that I created that inspired this video. Every relationship, doesn't matter what kind it is, a monogamous relationship, a partner in life, siblings, adult siblings, parent-child relationship, any of them are all co-created. We co-create them. So it's two individuals that come together, that willingly want to remain in contact, have a emotional silent contract. It's co-created. And sometimes these contracts evolve. It's almost it's not intentional. It's not malicious. Maybe sometimes it is. Most of the time, at least in the coaching space that I'm in, it's not malicious. It's not intentional. It's not malicious. It is oftentimes a contract. That silent contract erodes over time through what energy is brought into that dynamic, into that relationship, into the philosophies that are brought in over time. And so it's kind of like the death by 1,000 cuts sort of example. So if anything, if what occurs in the energy in that relationship, maybe one of them or you has this, I will always be there for you. I'm always here for you. You can always count on me. I'm going to sacrifice my own needs and wants and desires for you. I am here to make your life easier. I'm here to manage things for you. I am the one that'll come in and swoop up and take away all your woes and sorries and make things better. I'll make your owies better. And oftentimes people that operate from that is someone that silently, kind of secretly wants that in return. And this is the overperformance, right? When they are predicting things, when they're scheduling things, when they're doing all the legwork to make sure that everything goes smoothly for whatever. Maybe it's the annual weekend at the cabin at the lake situation. They're the ones that plan everything, program everything, and then the other person or people in the dynamic just show up and just hang out, right? They don't do any of the cleaning, the setting things up, the organization. They just kind of come. But the people that oftentimes overperform, they secretly believe that it's going to be repaid back to them. And the secret contract, right? The co-creation is, and how it becomes a problem, if you will, if we can word it that way, is when they have this silent, secret expectation in their mind that one day somebody else is going to do this. Someone else is going to take the baton. Someone else is going to fill my big shoes. What'll end up happening is if they are the ones that always do it, and this is what they say to me in coaching, I'm the one that always does it. Everyone always counts on me. Notice the absolute language, always. Whenever I hear the word always, my ears perk up in a coaching session. Always? Are we sure it's always? And it might be, but it's this absolute. It's this language that I am the one that always does this for everyone. Well, because you always do it, they expect it. So there's expectations that happen on both sides. So they expect you to do all the planning because you always have. And heck, I don't know how to do it. And I'm too busy. I have my values and things that are important to me consume my time, my energy, and I'm not going to do it. But you always do it and you do it so well. So high five, you keep doing it. So they expect you to always do it, but yet you're expecting someone else to come in and help or take it over or do it differently. But also your expectations might be so high, you've raised the bar so high that your events and planning and all the things that you've ever done. I've actually had a client that did this many, many years ago. She would do all the events and all the family stuff every year. And it wasn't just like one or two. It wasn't Thanksgiving. It was all throughout the year, like every month for all the birthdays and all the things. She would do all the things, but in silence and private with me, she had such deep resentment because she was the one that was always doing it and everyone expected that of her. But her expectations were so high that whenever she handed over the baton and allowed someone else to do it, she was highly disappointed and you could see it on her face. You could feel it. And she would give feedback. And guess what? No one wants that baton. So we co-create these secret contracts or this way, the standard or these expectations. It's sometimes invisible to the person that creates it. But that's my job to point it out. Look at your expectations and look at you wanting to control a specific outcome with every party, every event. And nobody understands the rules. Both sides, both of you are operating from your own reality and how you want things done. Some people just want to show up and enjoy the party and make a mess and leave, but they don't know what they are doing. It's just been accepted for so many times that they kind of just, it is what it is. But if you work with me or have worked with me, it's about self-leadership. Every co-created relationship oftentimes has a leader. It's not always one person leads. Some modalities out there and some philosophies have like this leader and then follower dynamic. And that's not the language. And I'm not even going to use the language in this video. I'm just going to not use it because I'm not about titles and labels. I kind of like take all that stuff off to the best of my ability. But I think in co-created relationships where there's a lot of balance, there's someone's leading. I'm not a dancer, so please don't judge. There's usually a leader and then a follower in dancing. Okay. So same with relationships. Not always is there one leader. Usually, if someone's feeling ill or has a headache or maybe injured or recovering from a surgery or maybe, I know for me and my husband, there's certain areas and categories that he's really strong in, and there's other categories I'm really strong in. So we kind of just, we're on the same team, but we lean on each other's strengths and skills and talents when appropriate. So sometimes I lead, sometimes he leads, and there's never really this power struggle of who's leading. It's not an arm wrestle. It's just really having this awareness that, oh, this is my strength. I'm going to lead in this moment or this day or this whatever. But it's really co-created. It's not these silent contracts. It's really being communicative, speaking out loud and being direct with warmth and kindness and compassion. Okay. So when I say speaking up and being clear and direct, it doesn't mean becoming a jerk and being controlling and dictating or demanding people jump in and help and do more. It's just lead by example, model and inspire people to have a more balanced, healthier relationship to you or with you. And then also with self-leadership, if you've worked with me, it's about recognizing how you care for other people. Are you carrying them? Because when we carry other people, we wing them. We prevent them from learning, growing, evolving, being emotionally mature human beings. When we carry people, the people that we love and cherish and adore, I know the positive intention is to prevent them from being hurt or sad or lonely or rejected or have some sort of negative emotion. But when we're carrying people, we're preventing them from growing. We're emotionally stunting them. We're in the way. Okay, so caring is not carrying other people's mental, emotional, and physical load. It's not, stop doing everything for people. And it's not about completely, but help them so next time they have the tools, the resources, and the know-how of how to do or be or solve problems. I think that's an issue that I have experienced with a lot of people that I've coached where they co-created a relationship where they carry the individual for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden they're not able to carry them for whatever reason. There's a million reasons that could be. And they don't understand why this person isn't solution minded. How are they not able to solve these problems? Because you've been in the way. You've been solving all of their problems their whole life. It's okay to handhold them and say, well, what do you think you should do to move forward in this decision? Or what ideas do you have to get yourself out of this situation? How are you going to prevent this from happening again? So it's helping them shift their mind into being creative and innovative, and they might come up with better ideas than you would anyways. So stop carrying people. And language that I use with my husband is sometimes when I feel like we're moving away from each other and navigating something that is, an us issue, I'll say, hey, well, hold on. I noticed that we're both thinking separately. I'm on the same team with you. So what if we looked at this from a team mindset, or look at it from that vantage point, that we're on the same team? How can we both navigate this utilizing our brain and our superpowers and our strengths? And sometimes I'll say it literally like that, and he loves it. He thinks it's funny. And a lot of times it just shifts the energy, and that's all we need in coming up with a solution. But it's also learning as an individual not to immediately answer people's questions. And maybe they're not even asking for advice or your opinion. Just notice that. I think that happens a lot. I hear that a lot in conversations where people are instantly giving advice without, it's the advice that was never asked for. And maybe people aren't wanting advice. Maybe they're just wanting to externally process just by saying things out loud, and they come up with their own ideas. They have their own light bulb moments or their own inspiration. But you as an individual, if you care about this person, when they vent, say, oh, wow, that sounds like a lot to carry. That's it. And then they might go, yeah, you're right. I need to get myself out of this mess. I need to get myself out of this jam. And that's your cue to say, great. What's one step? What's one thing you can do to get yourself out of this jam? It's real simple. You're not carrying them. You're not giving them answers. You're not giving them unsolicited advice. You're not rescuing them. You're helping them have critical thinking. You're helping them have solution-based thinking. You're helping them, because every time if somebody comes to you and gives you a problem and you give them an answer, that co-creates that dynamic, that co-creates that relationship. They know in their head, every time I come to this person and I give them a problem, they give me an answer, and it's easy, right? Human beings love what's easy. Stop giving them answers. One of the things I used to do when I was a business owner and I had employees, don't come to me with a problem without at least one solution. That helps. That dramatically drops your problems that get dumped in your lap or dumped in your email. It dramatically reduces it. Use that with your friends, your family, your loved ones, your adult children, whatever. Okay. Ask them to, if you've got a problem, come to me with at least one solution, one way, one idea to get yourself out of a jam, if not three. But the more awareness that you have in the patterns that you're co-creating in a relationship, any dynamic, you'll start to see, oh, I'm a part of the problem here. I'm a part of what's created this pattern, this loop. Okay, so more awareness you have, the more you can slowly adjust the relationship to be more in balance. If there's a massive drastic change overnight, I guarantee you the other person is going to revolt. When there's massive changes in how you relate to another person, you just changed the contract without their approval. So you really want them to feel included if you're going to make a massive change in the contract, the invisible one or the physically written one, always. So resentment, I kind of alluded to that. Resentment is the enemy of connection. Oftentimes, whenever I say the word resentment, there's usually a lot of people's minds jump to a big fight, a big conflict, a big verbal disagreement, but it's usually not. Usually resentment is built by death of 1,000 cuts. It's usually built from many, 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 many small moments. It's by saying yes when you meant no. It's usually doing favors for someone when you didn't want to. It's usually your avoidance of speaking up and saying your piece, or speaking up and saying how you really think and feel about the situation or the relationship, or how you want things done moving forward. Usually it's your own limitations and availability to this person. So, if you're not turning your phone off at night or silencing your phone at night and you're taking phone calls at 2 a.m., you've allowed this person to have too much access to you, unfortunately. So that's a co-creation. They know this person's going to answer at 2 a.m. They know they're going to text me back at 2 a.m. or whatever. So you're giving way too much access to your mental, emotional, and physical energy. It's also being exhausted and not being able to say it. Maybe you're struggling with your own mental health, or maybe you're struggling with your own energy. Maybe you're struggling with your own health, period. Maybe you're ashamed to talk about that. So it's really about, when you hide those things and hold those things in, they usually will boil up and they'll come out, blow up like a volcano, or you just hold on to it for decades and have a perception or worldview about how people just use you, have a tendency to use you. And usually when I hear that from new clients, especially, that to me tells me that they don't understand how relationships are co-created. Whenever someone is building up resentment in a relationship, again, doesn't matter what kind of a relationship it is, they are oftentimes putting their own needs on the back burner, right? Oh, I was going to start working out this week, but now I can't because I have to go in and help this person move, or I've got to go help this person do a photo shoot, or I've got to go help this person cut down a tree. I don't know. But they just put all of their own needs to the side to support other people. And again, there's this thing that they believe at some point in time, it'll be their turn. I'm sorry, it won't. Not in that relationship, because you're overperforming in that relationship. So resentment grows every time you ignore yourself, every single time. It grows and it grows and it grows and it compounds. There's compound interest. But we human beings, there's only enough energy in us to regulate our own emotions. There's not enough energy in the day. There's not enough bandwidth or battery power in a single day to manage another human being's mental, emotional state of mind. It's only enough for you. So when you give that away to other people, you're sacrificing yourself. And when you're out there rescuing, managing other people learn to adapt to that. That's the co-creation of that relationship. But if you stop, I wouldn't stop cold turkey. Again, maybe slowly erode things back, unless you've come to a point where, and I have worked with many people where it's been decades or a single decade where they are at a stopping point. They're like, I can't do this anymore. It is affecting my sleep. It's affecting my quality of life. It's affecting how I see this person, and I can't do it anymore, Katherine. I'm like, all right, then we got to massively change this relationship in a way that you have the time and the space to be able to regulate yourself and really start developing a life and creating a life that you love. And it may include them, but it might take a little bit of pulling back, and it might take limiting access to your mental, emotional, physical energy. They will adapt. They will adapt. They will learn. They will become stronger. And so will you. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes those relationships come to an end. But more often, relationships get stronger and become more connected, honestly. So when we're over functioning in a relationship, we teach that other person to under function, not intentionally, not purposely, not maliciously. It's just what happens. We human beings just do that. It's just a natural, normal process. Now, I would say if you're helpful, that's great. That's amazing. Maintain that value. A lot of times, like for me, I love to serve. I love to teach. I love to educate. I love to over deliver. I like to astonish people with, more than what I promised. I don't like to set the bar so high that they have these huge expectations. And then if I get hurt or injured or sick that I'm not able to follow through, then again, it's an agreement. I create a written, legalized agreement with all my clients, but there's so much more that I do. I sprinkle in there more because that's what I love to do. It's self-serving. And granted, people's results is all on them. They have to take ownership and responsibility on what they do, what they don't do, if they even come to sessions open-hearted and open-minded. But the bigger part is, do they apply what they learn from sessions? And that's where we learn. Human beings don't learn by listening and absorbing information. It's kinesthetic. You actually have to apply what you hear after sessions or in between sessions and apply it in real life. That's how your life transforms. Hearing for new information and nodding your head and saying, yes, that makes sense. You're not learning. You have to apply. So helpful builds connection, but when it's overused and abused and you don't have parameters, and you don't have an agreement on how much access people have to you, that's when our emotional well-being plummets. Whenever we do everything for people, that creates a codependency. We don't want to do that. And I see that too in a lot of all different kinds of relationships, this codependence, this dependency on one another. And that's not healthy. And that's not fun for anybody, not for either side. So I teach self-leadership. I teach you to lead by example. I teach you to model and inspire the other people that are in your dynamic, in your relationship, in your groups, in your forums, whatever it is, to lead by example. And when you lead by example, I do not mean you care less. I don't mean you become a jerk. What I mean by that is you really, you're more honest. You're warm, you're kind, you're compassionate, you're empathetic, and you say things very clear and direct. A lot of times people will tell me in coaching sessions, well, how do I tell them that I just can't do it, that I don't have the time or the energy? I'm like, you just said it, right? Well, it's going to hurt their feelings. How do you know? You don't know if it's going to hurt their feelings, and it's not in your business. It's not in your lane to manage other people's feelings or emotions. That's for them to manage. Be clean, clear, direct, be warm, be empathetic, be compassionate, use your own words. How do you want to feel? Well, I want to feel honest. I want to feel clear. I want to feel direct. Yeah, I want to feel all these things. Then do it, right? Use your own words, and maybe even start off saying, I really care about you. This relationship that we have is very important to me. And I want to share with you that I just don't have the energy this week. Hard stop. You don't need to over-explain and justify and be whiny. Just be clean, clear, and direct. They will respect you more. So another example is, someone saying, Katherine, how do I keep everybody happy? That's not your job. And that is a target that you will never hit all the time. I say this a lot in relationship stuff, new relationships, the honeymoon phase. We can probably hit the target pretty often, to keep the other person happy, because it's new, it's fresh, and everybody's, giddy, and all these new hormones are raging, oxytocin, and not all the, other hormones, but hormones, right? It feels good, it feels exciting, and it's you hit the mark really, really often. The issue is when the honeymoon phase kind of calms down, have I been over carrying responsibility of the other part? Have I been carrying the other person's emotions? Have I been over performing to ensure that they're happy and not taking care of my own needs? Like I see people that gain weight after, during the honeymoon phase, because they're so excited and giddy and doing all these things, but they stopped working out. They stopped taking care of their health. They stopped taking their supplements. They stopped sleeping properly. They've really just totally changed their entire life to a completely different way of doing things, and their weight skyrockets. I'm about to lose my voice, I could tell. But not every single emotion belongs to you. Let other people's emotions be their own to regulate. If you regulate your own emotions, if you know how to access peace of mind, if you know how to access calm, if you know how to access stability, if you know how to access being still, being present, if you know how to do those things, learn to do them over and over and over and over throughout the day. Whenever something wants to take you off the rails and upset you or trigger you or whatever, if you know how to do that, which that's the work I help you with, is being more regulated, being more calm, being more at peace, not wanting to control everything, being very much at peace in your own inner world, you'll start to see that you only have enough energy to regulate yourself. You don't have enough to regulate everybody else's minds, right? It's enough work to figure our own minds out, our own thought patterns, our own loops, the things that can really trip us up and get in our own way. There's not enough to help anyone else, and nor would you understand another person's state of mind, right? It's enough work to figure out our own. So not everybody's disappointments or upsetness or expectations belongs to you. only yours, only yours. So conflict, so not every conflict or not every disagreement, not every friction or tension requires you to get involved. Let other people sort it out. Let other people find their way. That's how they will learn. That's how they will grow. Because if you get in their way and you keep getting in the way and you keep fixing things, they're not going to learn how to do it. You keep rescuing them. Stop doing that. The healthiest relationships is really being there for them, holding space for them, and being calm, being steady, being safe to say whatever is on their mind, and they know that you're not going to shiv it in their back. You're not going to come up behind them and use it against them or weaponize it. The most loving thing you can do is allow someone to be in their discomfort, to take ownership for the choices and decisions that got them wherever they are, right? The choices and decisions that led up to whatever they're experiencing or going through, okay? Okay, so I did do an hour. I have more. I have so much more. Too many notes, Katherine, too many notes. So final thought. I think the biggest message I'd like to say is learn to know what's yours to carry. You can care deeply for people without carrying their load. Your life is for you to understand and navigate in the most calm, peaceful, self-loving way. Because truly, at the end of the day, when you really love yourself and your life, you will project that out into the world. People will learn from your energy. You will model and inspire them. That's that self-leadership piece again. You'll lead by example. You'll have this magnetic, charming presence that people just want more of. And you're not solving any problems. You're just being the steady one in the room. You're being the calm one in the room. So it's never about rescuing people, managing people. It is a beautiful thing to be of service to other humans, but after you are regulated, after all your needs are met, you're hydrated, you've fed yourself, you've got a full night rest of sleep, you've taken care of all your mental, emotional, physical needs and health, then you can pour into other people, but only a little bit, right? Hold space for them, let them go through their journey. Their journey, a hero's journey always includes a bit of discomfort, a bit of pain, a bit of agony, a bit of fear. It always does. They'll come out on the other side stronger, richer, more intelligent, more emotionally intelligent, more mature, and they'll solve their problems over and over and over and over again. So be a helper, but without carrying everyone. Okay, I feel complete, even though I didn't read all my notes, but that's okay. All right, guys, you're amazing. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the hearts and likes and all the beautiful encouragement. Any questions, just shoot me a question via text or email. Love you guys. Bye.